Hello, everyone. Just wanted to go ahead and get started with you on a quick chat covering the basics of chapter 15. So, you'll notice in your book, if you want to go ahead and turn there with me while we're getting started, it starts on page 83 of your Gallopade text. It's also available to you on Clever. So, you have access to that chapter now if you need to go ahead and start reading it online if you don't have your book. So, the subtitle of this chapter is called William the Conqueror and the Magna Carta. That's a little bit misleading because those are two separate things that we're going to talk about today. But we will talk about both of those events and why they are so historic. So, that is one of your vocabulary terms located on 83. I think that's really thrown around in miscontext a lot of the time is we say things are historic. So, like this coronavirus pandemic, it is historic. It is of great historical importance. We can learn from this moving forward for centuries and centuries. We can learn from this historic event. Now, something can be historical, which is pertaining to history, but these two incidences in the early Dark Ages, Middle Ages, with William the Conqueror and the Magna Carta with King John are both very historic. They are very important. So let's start with William the Conqueror and the Battle of Hastings. So this is a photo of William, and you can see here he reigned from 1066 to 1087. Now that year, 1066, that is really important because the William the Conqueror did not just get passed down this title of king. He had to fight for it. So there was a little bit of controversy surrounding taking over of this leadership. So you can see here William's cousin, Edward the Confessor, King of England at the time, promised William could take over the English throne upon his death. However, when Edward died in 1066, his brother-in-law Harold became king. So the major problem, and you remember from chapter 14, that loyalty and honesty is everything during this time. So, of course, he took personal offense to that, and he really rightfully felt like the throne belonged to him. There was someone else in the mix, and that is Harold. I hope I'm saying this name right. Harold Hardrada. He was the king of Norway, and both of them somehow believed that they were supposed to have this throne. So, because of this, and I'm going to show you a map here. We may go back to this in just a second. So, if you don't know, this is Scotland, this is England, or what will become England. This is Wales, Ireland. So you can see here, he is from Norway, and Norway is a little bit up past this. It's not on your map, but he is going to come and attack King Harold. I know that's sort of confusing. This was Harold with an O, and this is Harold with an A. He's going to come from Norway and attack from the north. Now, that's very important because at the same time or around the same time, after the Anglo-Saxons, the Normans, had defeated them up here at the north, those, the Norwegians, at the same time, he is being battled by William the Conqueror in the south. So he very hurriedly takes his troops from all the way up here down here. But it ends up being too late because at that point they had already made ground fall. They had already been here and were ready to fight. So because they were so tired and exhausted from this battle that they had to defend the first time, the Normans, William of Normandy, he ends up taking over as the King of England. So this really is very important because one, instead of having a bunch of small territories like we were used to seeing in chapter 14, William ruled all of the land directly. He unified England into something that is like the modern day country it is today. And that's huge because that has been around for, nearly 1,000 years. And then something else, William helped to create the country that would someday rule most of the world, including what was to become the United States of America. So that directly impacts us. That's something that we can relate to. I wanted to also show you a photo of the actual place where the battle took place. So these are some reenactors, and they are dressed in period clothing. They are on horseback. You notice they have spears and swords. Even though gunpowder was created in China, I hope you remember that. Even though it took so long for that type of weaponry to make its way to that part of the world. So they really weren't using at all gunpowder, cannons. They were really more so using the spears and the swords and things of that nature. Behind them here is the abbey, or you could say the church that was on the battlefield. I would imagine this would have been used as some sort of fortification at the time to defend. However, again, William the Conqueror of Normandy, he does take control and he does become the king during that time. So let's talk a little bit now on page 84 of your text. We're going to talk about King John. But before that, I want to make a point. William died in 1087. And it's actually very ironic because of all of these, battles and being king and people trying to take over the throne. He dies after being thrown off a horse. Isn't that? I just find that so strange that him being called William the Conqueror and he dies in such a, I guess you would say, meaningless way. But yet again, it's the Middle Ages. The lifespan is just not great. So for the next 100 years after William the Conqueror, there was a series of powerful kings that maintained the power of the English monarchy and over the nobles. However, in 1199, King John becomes the King of England. So what we know about King John is that he was mean, he was arrogant, and he was very cruel to the people who were very loyal to him. And so the nobles and the lords, the people that, sort of ran these manors, he treated them very poorly. He demanded more military service and more payments from them. And then he settled disputes according to his own judgments, and he ignored longtime feudal traditions. He also proved to be an inept military leader, and he also lost some of the English territory to the French. So it's sort of like a lot of the progress that William the Conqueror made in this historic landmark of unifying England and treating people with respect and gaining all this territory for England. King John just comes and just wipes out all that progress. I will show you a photo of him and what he looks like. So this is a painting that was actually done from a manuscript during the 13 and 1400s of him. Again, he lived from he ruled. He was King of England from 1199 to 1216. He lost many of the lands, and he was forced to concede numerous rights to his barons in the Magna Carta. He was a colossal failure. He really just did a lot of damage to the people who were supposed to be loyal to him. So after so many wrongs, so many failures, those nobles sort of turned against him because he's lost this land. He's treating them horribly. He's demanding more military representation. He's demanding more payment, more taxes, and that's never going to be a good thing. So ultimately, the nobles make him sign a very important document called the Magna Carta. So the Magna Carta actually just means great charter or important agreement. And it established three main rules. It limited the monarch's power. So it limited the king's ability to govern and his power over those different people in the feudal hierarchy. It also established a rule of law so that people had a right to a trial by jury. It was fair. It was just. It wasn't just the king deciding who could be punished and what they could be punished for. So the reason why the Magna Carta is so important and why we can relate to that is because the founding fathers of the United States were very familiar with the outline of the Magna Carta, and it influenced them as working with the U.S. Declaration of Independence and the Bill of Rights and the Constitution. So really, a lot of our own ideals that we use today in the Constitution and looking back at the Declaration and the Bill of Rights, I mean, that is something we still look at today in our U.S. justice system and our judicial branch. They still have a duty to uphold the Constitution. And really, it was influenced largely by this Magna Carta. So I wanted to end this quick little overview of information with you by letting you see the actual Magna Carta in its glory. So this is the original copy of the Magna Carta, issued by King John of England in 1215. This document guaranteed the rights of individuals and held the ruler subject to the law. So you notice here, this is written in very old English. So none of this, even though it is from England, there is nothing on that you would recognize or understand. Again, a lot of this was still at this point very Latin influenced. So many of the words that you know today that are English would not have been recognizable here. You can see King John's penmanship here. And he also had this seal. So I know seals are sort of outdated now, but a lot of times you would have some sort of identification in your seal, letting people know that this is the stamp of approval and this is me giving my authority to this document. So that is what this down here is at the bottom. It is King John's seal of approval that he will uphold the Magna Carta. Now, what ends up happening is he gets a little bitter and irate, and he tries to get the Pope to go against the nobles and try to outlaw and cancel this Magna Carta, which he does. But again, it really doesn't mean much in the long term. Even though the church did have a very powerful voice during this time, again, his role as king ends. It ends rather quickly. So again, the Magna Carta ends up standing. It is something that they use all the way through the Middle Ages. And it does sort of bring out this conflict between the Pope and King John, which really makes him look worse, like a worse leader at that point. But again, Magna Carta will stand and will lead into our chapter 16 conversation when we come back in January. So hopefully you found some of this information useful, and you will be able to view this first thing Monday morning. I will be out helping to pass out lunches to some of you guys on the bus route. So keep an eye out and see if you can see some of your 7th grade teachers out delivering lunches. But wanted to go ahead and make this. I will make this available first thing Monday morning, so you can view this and go ahead and start on your YouTube video reflection assignment that will be located in the assignment tab. As always, have a wonderful Monday. Have a wonderful rest of your week and leading into your Christmas break. Bye.